My name is Adrian Nantchev, and this channel is all about helping you become a remarkable entrepreneur. So today I have with me Tom Luongo to talk about all the things that he's doing. So please, Tom, tell the listeners at home who you are, what your mission is, what your story is, and what difference you want to see in the world.
Well, thank you very much, Adrian, for having me on. I've been doing something like this for a long time. Actually, my mission in life, I have very clear missions, actually. It's a strange thing to be able to do what you feel is what Gary North, the great Austrian economist, would call your calling, and make that your job. And my calling in this life is to explain to the world in the best way I can how to live a life free of government control, effectively. I want you to be I want people to be truly entrepreneurs and independent thinkers and actors, and understand that the surest way to both financial and personal satisfaction is by removing all aspects of the state from your life, to be honest. I'm a former professional chemist. I spent 25 years as both a research and bench chemist, but in my off time, I've given myself I'm not going to make any bones about it. I'm a pretty prominent discusser of libertarian and Austrian economic ideas and ideals. I write over at Seeking Alpha. I have a premium investor service called Stocks, Shocks, and Rocks. I publish on Seeking Alpha about once every 3 days. As a matter of fact, this interview has actually got me in the middle of writing an article this morning for Seeking Alpha to take care of my subscribers. But my personal blog is over at tomluongo.me. It's called Gold, Goats, and Guns, and I really feel that those three things are a metaphor for the way you should consider your life. Gold, Goats, and Guns, as far as I'm concerned, is a metaphor for a life of self-sufficiency and being your own central bank. Gold represents your savings. Goats represents your industry, the things that you do to deploy your savings in a way to build wealth for yourself. And then, of course, guns are the way you protect that wealth. And you go from there. And having that kind of mindset of being not self-sufficient in the division of labor sense, but self-sufficient in how you're going to go about your business is incredibly important. We live in an age of profligate central bank thievery, for lack of a better term, and it's imperative that everybody gets control of their finances at a fundamental level and sees the differences between savings, investing, and how to protect those things. And I have a strategy. I used to write for Newsmax Media, a monthly publication called the Resolute Wealth Letter. That was taken away from me a couple of months ago by an internal shakeup over at Newsmax. Nothing I did wrong. My subscribers loved me, but it was built along those same ideas, and I'm in the process of rebranding that into Gold, Goats, and Guns without the crutch of having somebody else do the work, do all the promotional work and everything else for me, which frankly Newsmax did not do. So now it's time for me to take complete control of my business and move forward.
Yeah, definitely take control of your life, not being subservient to somebody else, arbitrary rules or victimless crimes. Just forget about it. Create your own life, create your own future. You said those 3 Gs, goats.
Mm-hmm.
What was the 3 Gs? Goats.
Gold, Goats, and Guns.
Gold, Goats, and Guns. Can you elaborate on that, especially the goat bit, please?
Well, I have a small hobby farm I live up in North Florida, and my wife and I bought a plot of land back in late 2002, and in 2003 we started building our own house. So the house that I live in was built by myself, my wife, a good friend of ours, and 14 or 15 of our friends. And for the most part, there's a couple of pulled contractors in for a couple of minor things like insulation, but for the most part, every flaw and every panel I'm currently looking at in my office was put up by me, and I remember every one of them. And it was important, it was imperative that we did so at the time, because I realized that there was a housing bubble coming in the United States. It was brewing then. I used the egregious rise in value of my house in Gainesville to finance the build of this house and teach myself the skills necessary to live in a post-crash environment. That crash has not particularly come in the way I thought back in my 30s, but that's fine. It did still, even though I didn't even though that didn't come to pass, or it still may, because we're still on the verge of a horrible a couple of years of monetary distress as the global monetary system falls down. But even so, we learned a tremendous amount about what I'm capable of, and a tremendous amount about, and we saved a tremendous amount of money by knocking out the contractor, by knocking so many things out of the process. I have a house in 14 acres and almost no mortgage, and I'm 49 years old and pretty much free if I needed to sell this house and get all of my equity back, and then move on and do whatever else I wanted to do with my life, and I'm not beholden to a bank. And it's that kind of lesson that I try to explain to my subscribers over and over again, that investing isn't just about getting a nominal return in the market. It's about how you perceive your actions, and how you can generate wealth by saving money as well as investing money for a positive return. And then over the course of time, my wife and I built, she has her gardens, I have my dairy goats. We do those things on top of as a hobby and a supplemental income for times when times are difficult, right? And so I'm in the transition phase right now, and I have a small business on the side selling goat cheese and goat milk and yogurt and kefir and things like that. As a matter of fact, my wife this morning is actually over at the farmer's market right now doing that. She's over there making us a few $100 doing that. Dairy goats are an incredibly powerful economic engine, and they're tremendous. They're actually one of the best investments I ever made, because for less than $1 a day, I can get my girls to produce me 2,500 to 3,000 calories of high quality calories a day, and you can't beat that, and especially in the American market, that's where food is an unbelievably expensive drain on your lifestyle. So the ability to have first building my own house and then growing my own food, and having built a lifestyle that allows me to work from home, so that I don't have to be on the rat race every day. I don't have to spend $15,000 a year maintaining a car, right? Driving back and forth, the depreciation, the wear, the tear, everything else, just the gas and all of that. None of those is tax deductible, FYI. That this is a way of, I can live here in North Florida on a very nice parcel of land for less than $30,000 a year, which I couldn't do if I was doing something else. Where if I was making 75 or 80 grand a year as a chemist working in town or whatever, which I could be doing, which I could have continued to do, I would spend $50,000 to $60,000 a year just maintaining a lifestyle. And so the profit margin and my margin for error in an economy that goes through major ups and downs based on, again, profligate central bank policy, it's just one that you just don't want to put yourself in a position of. You don't want to be beholden to that. So,
yeah, fascinating. A lot of things I'm very curious about. Would I be right in saying that you're off the grid completely?
No, I would not. No, not at all. We're not off the grid completely. I believe that I like to call us techno hippies in a sense. I have an internet-based business. I don't think that I can buy electricity from Clay Electric for 12 cents a kilowatt hour. I can't generate it better myself that way, so there's no point. And I don't have the time to maintain a solar system, even if it was right. There's a lot of work that goes involved in this. There's a lot of work that's involved in maintaining that kind of lifestyle. What you're doing here is you're trying to balance what it is that what you want out of this life with what it is that you need. And my wife loves to garden. She loves to, take care. She loves to grow corn and sweet potatoes and whatnot. We have ducks to take care of our eggs because we find that laying ducks are far more profitable than chickens. My wife happens to find out absolutely. Laying ducks are far more profitable than chickens are. Chickens don't lay nearly well enough, and there's way too many things. So ducks if you feed them, they will lay, and you can get much more money a dozen for duck eggs than you can for chicken eggs, where it actually makes the time invested in them worthwhile. So my daughter takes care of the ducks. So she's learning at the age of 11 she has a job that she gets paid for, that she does her job well. We produce more eggs and she gets paid a little bit more money. And so there's all of these little life lessons that go along with this kind of lifestyle. Now, I'm not saying this lifestyle is for everybody, but it's certainly what I wanted. And I've always said I've been writing public on the internet since 2003, and I've written for Lou Rockwell. In the past, I've written for other places, and I've always said the same thing, which is that if you're going to talk the talk, you need to walk the walk. If you're going to tell everybody that this is the best way of living your life, well, living in an apartment and, bitching about the world from your iPad, is not the way of going about it. You have to show it, and you have to prove to people that you're capable of doing it. And, so that's where it comes down to. So,
yeah.
I feel very strongly.
A beg pardon?
I feel very strongly about that. I always have.
Yeah. Firstly of all, I'm surprised that ducks make better eggs than chickens.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Wow.
They're richer. They're richer. They're just better. I mean, well, they're growing. Think of it this way, Adrian, from an energy standpoint. Chickens are a Southeast Asian or a tropical bird. The yolk is very small and has a lot of water in it. And it's just got to grow a little teeny chick, right? Whereas a duck egg has to grow waterfowl that can survive the winter and come out of the egg and within 3 or 4 days be ready to swim on the water in the Canadian winter. There's a lot more energy necessary to grow those feathers, grow the fat layer, and all that, and everything else. So yeah, the ducks are in the package of the egg itself. Aside from the fact that they're larger, there's just so much more energy and so much better fat and protein in them than they are a chicken egg. And a lot of people are less allergic to them. My wife's allergic to chicken whites, and most people don't know that they're allergic to them. So yeah, it's also the same thing with goat milk versus cow's milk, right? I'm allergic to cow's milk. It's part of the reason why I own goats. And being Italian, pretty much I think all of us are allergic to cow's milk. And so if I can't get a decent supply of it locally, and locally it's $12. I can sell my goat milk for $12 to $14 a gallon. I can't afford to pay my friend Greg $14 a gallon for his milk, so it's better for me to raise my own for $2 a gallon or $1.50 a gallon. So, which is what I do.
Oh wow, that's it. That's fascinating. I never knew any of this stuff. That's really cool. Going back a little bit,
sure.
You mentioned earlier that your mission was to live a free life of government.
Yes.
Can you explain to the listeners out there that are not too familiar or too versed? Well, what do you mean by that exactly? And also, what's wrong with government? It provides roads, doesn't it?
I'm not. I'm not getting into the roads argument. I am a hardcore libertarian and anarcho-capitalist. At the end of the day, philosophically, I believe that the voluntary economy is the superior one to the coercive one. And if you want to call that free market capitalism, if you want to call that voluntarism, you want to call it agorism, you call it whatever you want. Label it, put an ism on it all you want. But at the end of the day, trade between consenting adults and between reasonably informed consenting adults, it should be a win-win proposition. It is a win-win proposition. And anything the government does to support that or intervene in that, all it does is create an unwanted transfer of capital from one person, from one side of the transaction to the other, either by mucking with the value of the money itself or supporting the price of the thing one person is trying to get versus the other one. It doesn't really matter. And all government intervention either creates a price floor or price ceiling. It creates a barrier to trade in which the bureaucracy has to enforce it, and the police department has to enforce the bureaucracy's edicts, and all that money has to be paid. All that has to be paid for, and that money is always far larger than any quote unquote externalities that the political left will argue is why we have government in the first place. It's been proven multiple times over. The Mises Institute has done the philosophical work on this. It's sitting there for anybody who wants to learn it. All you have to do is live it, and you'll see the difference. So everything we don't like in this life is a product of the government getting in the way of it. Now the government does things that we perceive as net goods, things like roads and hospital and what they used to do, hospitals and whatnot, and they probably do hospitals better than our current fascist system of or corporatist system of corporate medicine here in the United States. But part of the problem with that is that the government's been in charge of the roads and the water supply and everything else for so long. We aren't comfortable with seeing what those systems would look like as private individuals, run by private companies, run by private concerns. So the fear of changing that system is a far bigger barrier to entry psychologically than it is actually physical. We could, it's not something that that is insurmountable. I always tell people over and over again. I said, look, you're worried about the roads. The fact that there are roads and we have government building them inefficiently and at 5 times the freaking cost and with these bad contractors and all this other stuff, the fact that we want these roads, those roads would exist. And they would exist at 1/5 the freaking price if we were to do this ourselves and not look to the nanny state to take care of it for us. And it's just, that's the efficiency argument. Aside from everything else, the road system would look completely different. And it would be better. And we would get used to it very quickly because, the hallmarks of being human is that we're incredibly adaptive creatures. That's our catastrophic mutation. In an evolutionary biology sense, is our ability to adapt to changing conditions is what makes us the top predator in the world. It's very obvious when you're looking at it that way. And so our ability to adapt and look at things like we have a completely corrupted money system. Look what happens. When we finally reach a point where gold is not capable of acting as a medium of exchange to liquefy a global monetary system, which it's not, because moving pounds of gold around is just terribly inefficient, even digital versions of it. The market created cryptocurrencies out of nowhere. And here we are today on the verge of a monetary system breakdown and billions of dollars a day flowing into things like Bitcoin and Dash and Monero and Ethereum and Litecoin and whatnot as a means to get out of and escape from government-controlled money. It's staring you right in the face. I had an article the other day up on investing.com. I was asked by them for an article on this and whether I thought Bitcoin was in a bubble, and I gave it to them. And within 12 hours, it was the most read and analytic piece on the site, beating out people who have far bigger reputations than me. Because at the end of the day, the strength of your arguments and the ability to present those arguments well will always win out in the end. So.
Yeah, I think the blockchain, for the past sort of six or so months, I've started to realise the potential of the blockchain in changing and revolutionising industries and business and communication. It's essentially the internet, where the internet was in 1993 in relation to how much more potential it has and the technology and the disrupting the status quo. There's a lot of potential.
Absolutely. No, it's tremendous. And what's funny is that I'm one of these people who's always like 5 years ahead of his time. And I don't mean this, and I don't mean this to be, to pat myself in the back or anything, but it's true. In July of 2010, I published an article on Lou Rockwell explaining to the world what Bitcoin was. The blockchain had just gone live. On the Bitcoin forums at the time, they were still arguing as to whether or not we arguing with Wikipedia as to whether or not Bitcoin deserved a Wikipedia entry. I remember that fight. I was there. I don't know, user 36 at the original Bitcoin forums. And as a matter of fact, I remember sitting down, in the thread of, does Bitcoin satisfy Mises's regression theorem as money? I'm the one who sat down and took the hour and explained it to everybody and said, yes, it's a commodity. It's encrypted packets have value. I spent the time to do that work. I own some Bitcoins. I even mined a couple of blocks of Bitcoins early on. I had 200 or 300 at one point, and then they all got stolen from Mt. Gox, and I let it go, for years. And I laugh about it now that, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation if I had, had the faith in Bitcoin that I saw in its potential back in 2010, because I own my own private island. Because I would have so many of them that it wouldn't even matter. But I didn't see it then. I saw it as a curiosity. And I saw it as something fascinating, and I saw it as alpha code that went viral. But what I misunderstood was the power that there were so many other people out there like me. I just thought I was this one guy on an island, and these 4 or 5 other people sitting here on this on a forum somewhere, thinking that this was not that it was just this fringe thing that was never going to take off. And that's fascinating. That the desire to escape the current monetary system is so strong that alpha code like Bitcoin, which was not designed, the original code base was not designed to liquefy a new monetary system. It was designed as a proof of concept. And it just got away from it. It just got away from its designers. They would have never, built a blockchain that could only handle 2 to 3 transactions per second if they thought that it was ever going to be this successful. But once it started getting successful and once there was capital behind it, it's very difficult for it to change, as we've seen, very difficult to make any changes to it once it's been deployed to the world, and once there's capital behind it, and so I found that fascinating. The other thing I found really fascinating was watching the hard fork this week to see that there was a real fundamental, honest to God fight, and the people who run the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, and they resolved it anarchically through splitting the blockchain into Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, and no lawsuits, no lawyers, no nothing. They were fighting publicly about it, and everybody was a little worried about it, but eventually they all worked it out, because that's what humans do. They work it out and they move on. It's only when we start codifying these things and start creating contracts that where one side can get an advantage over the other side through the leveraging the court system and the political system, that we have these nasty fights that continue in perpetuity. And and this gets into intellectual property law and all this other stuff, which is just insane. What if Satoshi Nakamoto, Nakamoto had patented Bitcoin? What if he had patented the blockchain? Would it be as successful today? No, not even close. It would still be fringe. It would still be this fringe thing that 20 people were talking about back in 2010. The fact that it was open source, the fact that it was open to the world, the fact that its ideas were freely, evolvable, into new versions that can solve new problems, and find new niches within the marketplace, new expressions of division of labor for different types of money within a new monetary system. If it was not open source, it wouldn't happen, and I wouldn't in any way, manner, shape, or form be interested, or I would have been right back in 2010, and you and I would be having this conversation. We'd be having a different conversation. So looking at it from that perspective, now that we've built this system that's been resilient enough, that these systems have been resilient enough from government attack, because we all know that Mt. Gox was taken down for political reasons. It resisted that attack that dropped Bitcoin from 1,000 back to 200 back in 2014, and that original move up to 1,000 was on a Chinese capital flight. Chinese middle class was trying to get around government capital controls, and they were using Bitcoin to do it, and that created a tremendous influx of capital that pushed a tremendous amount of capital into Bitcoin, which allowed the investment into the new forms of blockchains that we're seeing evolving today. Without the Chinese capital flight in 2014, again, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. And you can see the pattern and how this is happening. So what we're living through right now is the next $100 billion or $200 billion or $500 billion that's going to fund the investment for the evolution of the blockchain into the next version of the internet, as you mentioned earlier. You haven't missed it. For anybody listening, you haven't missed the top of the bull market hasn't even begun. No, I mean we're just getting started.
All right. So speaking of getting started, we're almost out of time.
Sure.
Before we wrap this up, Tom, what is it you're up to now?
Okay. So what I'm up to now is I've got my website is tomluongo.me right now. It's going to be changed over to Gold, Goats, and Guns probably within the next week or two. But you can go to tomluongo.me. That's my private blog, which will become a commercial site in a couple of weeks. I have a Patreon page as well where I publish a private blog, and we'll be publishing a monthly newsletter called Gold, Goats, and Guns, which will be a mixture of lifestyle and investing advice, and a look at where we're going in terms of geopolitics, and which we didn't even touch on today, and cryptocurrencies and all of those things. And we'll build a model portfolio for retail level investors who don't have a lot of investing experience to make good decisions over this crisis period. I think it's a very valuable way of looking at the world, and I have a portfolio structure that I think works very, very well and de-risks a lot of this stuff. Because I've done it before, and I can do it again. And then, of course, I write over at Seeking Alpha, and as well over at RussiaInsider.com, where I do geopolitics and whatnot as well. And so you can follow me over at Seeking Alpha as well.
Yeah, I must include those links in the description below.
I would appreciate that. That would be great. Thank you.
Naturally. And, well, thanks a lot, Tom, for coming on to the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Adrian, for the invite.
I must have you on again another time for a much more longer episode.
Okay.
But constraints and logistics, they're a nightmare at times.
I understand. Not a problem.
That's all right. Now, for ladies and gentlemen at home, if you haven't already, click on the subscribe button below and press the bell notification. If you're on YouTube, press the bell notification right next to it for the latest uploads. Because this channel is all about helping you become a remarkable entrepreneur. So go out there today and do something remarkable. How cool is that?